Glass shatters inside a sealed chamber while alarms scream through the laboratory. Something inside the tank is moving violently, but no one in the corridor remembers placing a living subject in that room. A tall scientist freezes in the observation hall, staring at the security screen replaying footage from only minutes ago. The chamber was empty before the glass started breaking. Behind him, a woman storms through the corridor doors and silences the alarms manually. Her first reaction isn't fear. It's calculation. Hours earlier, the same laboratory was calm and brightly lit as the two scientists prepared another routine hybrid incubation, just another trial in a long series of strange genetic combinations. Across the lab, the woman studies a digital genome sequence twisting across her screen. She isn't satisfied with animal hybrids anymore. Something far more ambitious has already begun. Their earlier creations sit quietly inside nearby tanks, stable, predictable, profitable. Yet the woman barely glances at them. Later that afternoon, both scientists sit across from corporate executives demanding faster pharmaceutical results. No one in the room realizes the two have already decided to break the rules. The meeting ends with strict orders: continue animal hybrids only. Human genetic material is completely forbidden. Minutes later, the woman quietly accesses a locked storage terminal and retrieves a genetic sample that was never meant to leave the database. When the tall scientist sees the sample, he immediately understands what she's planning. His hesitation lasts only a few seconds. The two lock down an abandoned section of the facility, far from cameras and routine inspections. If this experiment works, no one can know how it started. Inside the hidden chamber, animal genomes are layered together with a final strand taken from the mysterious human sample. The machine begins stitching the code. For several minutes nothing happens. Then the incubator temperature suddenly spikes as the artificial embryo begins dividing at impossible speed. The woman leans closer to the tank, fascinated by the accelerating growth pattern. Whatever they created isn't following normal biological limits. Within hours the embryo forms bones, muscles, and a moving spine. Growth charts become meaningless as the organism overtakes every prediction. By morning, the tank is no longer holding a cluster of cells. A full skeletal outline presses against the glass from inside the fluid. The tall scientist finally suggests terminating the experiment before anyone discovers it. The woman refuses without even considering the idea. Hours later, an emergency alert arrives on their phones while they are away from the facility. Something inside the tank has triggered a containment breach warning. When they reach the chamber, the incubation tank has already cracked open. The organism that was growing inside is no longer in the fluid. Something screeches from above the laboratory lights. Slowly, a thin gray shape unfolds across the ceiling structure, watching them both. The creature drops from the ceiling faster than either scientist expected. The tall man barely steps back before the gray figure lands silently on the floor between them. Instead of attacking, the creature tilts its head and studies the woman closely. Its breathing slows, as if recognizing something familiar. The tall scientist reaches for the emergency gas switch near the exit. If the creature becomes hostile, the chamber can be flooded with lethal chemicals. Before he pulls it, the woman stops him. Killing the organism now would erase the greatest biological breakthrough they have ever seen. She slowly extends her hand toward the creature. The gray figure steps closer, studying her fingers before lightly touching them. The tall scientist releases a small cloud of sedation gas anyway. The creature sways for a moment before collapsing onto the laboratory floor. When the creature wakes again, it is secured behind reinforced glass. Even restrained, it continues studying the scientists watching it. Medical scans reveal organs that don't belong to any single species. Some structures appear amphibian, others completely unknown. A narrow bone-like appendage extends from the creature's lower spine. Chemical analysis confirms it carries a powerful venom. Even stranger, its growth hasn't slowed. Every scan taken hours apart shows a slightly taller skeleton than the previous one. Days pass and the creature begins mimicking small movements made by the woman observing it through the glass. Soon it imitates simple sounds, forming rough syllables through unfamiliar vocal cords. The woman becomes increasingly fascinated. The tall scientist grows uneasy watching the bond forming between creator and experiment. The creature is learning too quickly. Corporate inspections of the facility are scheduled within days. If the hidden experiment is discovered, both scientists will lose everything. To avoid discovery, they secretly relocate the creature deeper underground into an abandoned test wing that no one monitors anymore. The new chamber is darker and colder, but the creature adapts immediately, exploring every corner with curious movements. Feeding experiments reveal unusual preferences. The creature ignores standard lab nutrition and instead reacts strongly to sugary substances. Within weeks its body length nearly doubles. Bones stretch, limbs extend, and new joints appear in places no human anatomy would allow. Despite its strange body, the creature begins displaying recognizable intelligence. It arranges scattered lab objects into repeating patterns. The woman brings educational tablets into the chamber. The creature studies the symbols intensely, absorbing them faster each day. Soon the creature begins recreating those same symbols on the wall with pieces of chalk taken from a storage tray. The tall scientist reviews security footage late at night and realizes the creature sometimes watches the cameras directly. During one scan, they discover a strange organ developing near the lungs, something capable of processing oxygen both in air and water. The woman begins speaking to the creature daily through the glass, treating it less like a specimen and more like a companion. The creature responds by mimicking gestures, tapping the glass in simple patterns whenever the woman enters the corridor. Meanwhile, the tall scientist quietly begins extracting microscopic venom samples from the creature's tail for chemical analysis. The results are staggering. The venom contains proteins capable of repairing damaged cells at extraordinary speed. But the creature is no longer staying calm in the underground chamber. It begins testing the strength of the enclosure walls. Late one night the creature climbs the vertical walls and disappears into the shadowed ceiling beams again. Watching the footage later, the tall scientist realizes something unsettling. The creature never tries to escape while the woman is nearby. Corporate security increases across the facility as the inspection date approaches. Hidden experiments will soon become impossible to hide. The two scientists realize the creature cannot stay in the laboratory much longer. Someone will eventually discover it. Their only option is moving it off-site somewhere isolated, where no surveillance systems exist. Before they can finalize the plan, the creature scratches a new word into the wall, one neither scientist taught it. The word reads simply, outside. The tall scientist suddenly realizes the creature understands far more than they expected. It isn't just learning, it's planning. That same night the creature climbs into the ceiling beams again and begins pulling loose ventilation grates. Metal echoes through the chamber as screws fall onto the concrete floor. The enclosure is beginning to fail. The woman arrives just in time to see the damage. The creature freezes, staring directly at her through the dim light. For the first time since its creation, the creature slowly backs away from her, then vanishes deeper into the ceiling ducts. The ventilation system rattles violently as something moves through it at high speed. The sound travels far beyond the underground chamber. The tall scientist rushes to the control room, trying to track the creature's movement through thermal sensors. Its path is erratic and accelerating. The woman seals multiple bulkhead doors across the facility, attempting to trap the creature before it reaches populated sections. A loud metallic crash echoes through the lab as a vent panel bursts open in a distant hallway. The creature has changed direction again. Security systems begin detecting movement in restricted zones that should be empty. The facility is no longer contained. The woman insists on capturing the creature alive, refusing to destroy what she believes is still controllable. But the tall scientist overrides her commands and arms the facility's gas purge system across multiple sectors. Toxic gas begins flooding through the vents, spreading quickly across the corridors. The creature's movement slows, but does not stop. Thermal readings spike again as the creature adapts, holding position in areas where the gas concentration is lowest.